Kirk is not an attorney. This is not legal advice. This is to be considered for educational purposes only.
Welcome to Kirk's Law Corner Live with your host, Kirk Pendergrass.
Good evening, folks. I made it here tonight. We don't have John yet tonight, so maybe he'll show. Maybe he's working late. I don't know what's going on over there. We do have Christopher Hallow with us tonight, so
it's happening, everyone.
We'll rock this stuff and get this shared real quick. Oh, let's see. Share.
Okay, I think I'm about getting this done.
So you, Chris shared a deal with me from Connie from that Family Forward Project group. I didn't get a chance to read the case file, but
it's an old document. It's from like 2015. It's a very interesting read, though, because it kind of places family court into a completely different realm. Basically, it's like almost an admission from the Justice Department that, oh yeah, we know this is a travesty of justice. You know, so it's like I said, when you think about it and you read it and you go, it's almost like reading the Hardwick versus Vreeken verdict. You know, you just want to say, thank you, Captain Obvious, you know.
Right.
But, you know, and the more of that I run into, it's just the more of this shit I start doing. It's like, oh, God, you know, right. Really? So, and I'm a little frustrated with a lot of happy horse pucky that's going on out there right now anyway.
With Facebook land?
No, not just there.
Oh. Yeah, we got lots of things going on everywhere. Yeah. Trump's being attacked.
Amen, sister. That's hilarious. So, yeah, we're I've had some pretty wild questions. I forget who it was. I was in a meeting earlier today, and question came up, asked if I think it was Kansas. And I'm like, no. You know, wasn't even thinking about it. And then, of course, oh, wait a minute. I remember. I think I know why the question even came up. And Don had printed some signs and was out in front of a courthouse. So looks, you know, the word is getting out. You know, people are, people are starting to speak the word, you know, that dirty word, the E word. How dare you say that E word? And, it's kind of hilarious that just one little word could ultimately end up, covering so much territory. I mean, the rest of it, when you go and you read it, like that thing we were just talking about from the Justice Department, the attorneys, they have a name for this. It's called word salad. They would know. Seriously, they've been working in this shit for years. For them to call it word salad, perfect description. Can't think of a better one.
Oh, they called it word salad.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Everything is word salad. Because they've been dancing around the freaking emolument since they started it. No wonder it's word salad. None of it makes any damn sense.
200 some years ago.
Ish. So,
I mean, it just so happens to be in the Virginia Declaration of Rights, June 12, 1776, that they're talking about emolument. It's right in there. So, they're our founders were well aware prior to even creating the nation.
Yeah, guess what? Why? Because they had just got done living this shit. They've been there, done that.
Right.
People ask me, how do I know so much? I don't know jack shit. I can read clearly just fine, though.
And I comprehend what I read. I actually thought about breaking out my old 10th grade report card where it says 400 words per minute with better than 85% comprehension.
Right.
In math, I was, I mean,
that's funny because
I know how to read. I know how to comprehend what I read much better than a lot of people in this country around the world. Some people don't understand something or don't comprehend something. Not everybody is like me. So,
yeah, well, it's like my old joke. Driving down the road, you look up in the rearview mirror and see that word ambulance. It looks like ambulance correctly in the mirror. You turn around, and it's say that. You're back in. What the hell? It was that reality that hit me. And it's like, wait a minute. So,
yeah. When you walk by the front of the ambulance, you're like, why the hell would they write it backwards on the car?
Right.
Oh, well, when you're in your car and you see it in the mirror, the same problem we have right here, mirrored image.
Yeah.
Sometimes my flag is backwards on the video. Can't quite figure out if my program for the camera wants to do the mirror image, and then we don't know if OBS or Zoom wants to do the mirror image. So we ended up going mirrored image, three different times to get it to go the right way. So I don't know. Ted makes it look right.
Yeah. That's why we love Ted, because without him, everything would be ass backwards.
I just flipped your image for you.
Uh-oh. Let's see. Did it make it backwards?
I'm going to watch. I'm going to see if it flipped it.
Now you're facing Chris, basically. Or not basically, you are.
There we go.
Now it's backwards.
That's hilarious.
Can you turn the flag upside down and leave me upright?
That only with a green screen I could do that.
Right.
And
that's all in your department because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, you just have to replace the American flag with some green, excuse me, a green cloth.
Right.
This phone is dying. We'll have to pick her up when she gets home. See you, Joyce. Yeah, I mean, it's hilarious. You start to see things, from in a 3-dimensional block. Is this coffee cup 2 dimensions? Probably not. You're not going to get much in there if it's flat. It's got to be 3-dimensional.
Right.
And, that's knowing what I know about just what I've done all of my life. Life is in 3 dimensions. It's not flat. So
what about the fourth dimension?
Well, that's the beauty of the science. I mean, the science, one of the reasons it works so well is because the science is three-dimensional. You're talking about 56 people, 56 men that wrote that.
Right.
That just got done doing exactly what we're facing. Yeah. Right?
Right.
So, which is, really one of the most bizarre things that I think to myself. And then, of course, watching I call it the regressive dumbing down of society over basically my lifespan. And, I remember being in grade school and standing up for the Pledge of Allegiance and, doing that whole thing. And I remember when that went away and all of the students, we were pissed. We were pissed. We're like, wait, you're going to what?
Yeah.
Why? Oh, because somebody got offended. And we're like, who? Kick them out. We don't want them here anyway. Or, that was the general mentality. And
Chad Anderson out here says the earth is flat too.
Yeah. So, let's kick their ass off the edge of it, Chad.
Some people can have that. It's flat or it's round. Honestly, I really don't care. It's really irrelevant to me. And even spend any time trying to argue about whether this chunk of land, water, mass, whatever, floating through space is round or flat. Really, I mean, it just doesn't matter, does it?
Right.
I'm such an infinite, tiny, minuscule speck.
Yeah, exactly.
Relative to the universe and
right.
Even just the Milky Way. That's within our own sight.
My dad always used to say
out that we can't see.
My dad always used to say
we're going to argue whether or not the Earth is flat or round.
Right. You always used to say, choose your battles because you're nothing but the bug on the windshield of time anyway. So,
what's that old saying? What's the last thing that goes through a bug's mind before it hits the windshield?
His asshole. Just saying.
That's right. Wrapped right around that damn thing.
Right. Oh, and it is. It's just, it's funny. Tanya's right. The Butthurt Act.
I was just going to say the Butthurt Act. I just saw that.
just perfect. I think that was the Butthurt Act of, what year was that, Tanya? You're going to have to help me out there. I don't remember it.
That was like 1500 something.
Ish, 1980 something or 70 something, maybe even, who knows. But, yeah, I mean, it's just like, wow, okay.
If you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space.
Right.
Well, we need to occupy some space. We need to come together in unity and get back to some fundamental principles of law here: life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
I'm like, I always think of myself as this box. There's people that live inside that box. I'm not one of those people. Never have been.
Right.
I don't do box, man. Probably why I've always had such a problem with authority. You like that box so much, you live in there.
Right.
Yeah. I don't do box.
Yeah. Take your policy with you because your policy belongs inside that box with you.
Just saying. Tanya, 1843. Just a wing and act. So, well, I wonder who's going to call on, and we're going to have see if we get to have a Wednesday bitch session, or if we're just going to have fun tonight. So I don't know, but
oh yeah, the numbers up there, folks. Tonight's the call-in show. We're watching the comments, so you can ask your questions through there too. But if you'd like to come on the show, come talk to us.
Oh yeah, drop it in there. It's the phone number's up there.
Anybody got a direct line to President Trump? Yeah. Maybe we can get him on here real quick.
Who's that?
President Trump.
Oh yeah, dude, come on, call in, dude.
I'm sporting my Glenita Zeiderfeld hat here. Getting close to primaries here, so
right.
Or what
it looks like we're getting our. You're getting our.
Did
she
get the nomination?
The what?
Did she get the nomination for her? What was she running for? She wasn't running for governor. She was running for a Senate seat, correct? It's been a while.
Yeah. Idaho legislator, representative. Okay.
So she's passed. She got the nomination or whatever. So she's going. Or does
no. They have to go through. I guess it's not primaries. It's what do they call that? Of all people, I should probably know this, but.
Well, like Cash Jackson got his nomination for his run for governor, which is great news.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure whether Marissa was successful in Arizona, Marissa Hamilton, but does it work the same way if you're running for a Senate seat, like governor?
No.
No, doesn't.
I would imagine the process is similar, but I know because they're different branches.
If you get an endorsement from a party.
Yeah.
But then there's the like a pre-election election. So you have like 4 or 5 people that might be endorsed for that party.
Right.
So it is pretty much the same thing. So she got basically the endorsement of the.
Who fits inside their box, right?
What?
Who fits inside their box, right?
Exactly. They've got to find that right fit. Or a different analogy would be the right puzzle piece.
Yeah.
For
yeah, I don't. That's why I
took out the phone number. It's like, it's the number of the White House. Don't ask me how I have that.
What's that?
He put out the phone number to the White House and he said, "Don't ask me how I have that." Oh. Is that to the direct line on the red phone, or is that just the white phone?
That reminds me of War Games. You ever see War Games?
I have. I've seen that one.
Game.
So.
Oh, it's the white phone. Okay.
What's been going on over there in the E-clause realm of things? I really haven't been on Facebook a whole lot. You know?
Yeah, I haven't been either. I mean, it's been absolutely crazy around
3
here.
weeks.
Yeah, I mean, between getting everything buttoned up for for tax season with my normal, clientele that funds this thing, this is that time of year where we're running around like friggin' chickens with our heads cut off, just trying to get that done. And, the rest of the year, it's almost like a hurry up and wait sort of a thing. But,
yeah.
Now it's like everybody all at the same time, it's like, oh shit. So, but we're getting to the tail end of that now. And on top of that, I got those requests from the various people that I've been working with, and for obvious reasons, because they are absolutely paying attention to what's going on here. They've requested that I not divulge the names. And I said, yeah, under these circumstances, dude, I ain't doing it.
Right.
I would not be doing you any service if I were to start throwing your name out there, especially after watching what the hell's going on. So,
yeah.
And I mean, ironically, I said, think about it this way. Based on what you're seeing, what we're saying, and the two extremely different polarized reactions, right? And I mean, they're extremely polarized. It is, based on what you guys write and what we do from here, we can damn near predict what each side of this thing is going to do based on their current reactions. And they were just like, oh, dude, yeah, I never thought of that. I said, okay, so, as far as, me shutting everything down and going dark, like a lot of people do, they get frustrated and go, screw it. But, it's like, the extremists on either the far left or the far right, get rid of them, right? Reality is probably somewhere in the middle there, right?
But we've talked about this before. You know, when our founders sat down at the round table discussions, this is something they talked about. It's like, look, okay, we have people who are religious, devout religious, and we have people who don't necessarily want to be religious. But here's what we know at this point, the founders know at this point at that time, Anglo-Saxon, okay? You have communism on one side and you have fascism on the other. Okay? Right. They knew this back then. Okay.
Right. Nothing new.
So how do we lay down the law here and establish and ordain a style and form of government that is best for the people, for their necessary safety and security, for the people, not government.
Ironically, when you start talking about the word salad, we'll go back to that. When we stopped using the word republic and started using the word democracy, that's kind of like where the wheels came off of the wagon, because there's only one thing that we do that's democratic in our republic, and that's our voting.
We vote for our elected officials.
Yeah. I mean, everything else is handled independently. Or
we vote for amendments to the Constitution, state constitutions. We also are supposed to be voting in the jury.
Right.
You know, a lot of people don't know about jury nullification, but that's a right that we retained by the people. It's a part of that political rights to alter, reform, or abolish anything, thing with the capital T, that's a subject. Person, place, or thing. The thing, which happens to be the instruments of government that serve us, right? So when we have things like a statute that is repugnant to the law, the jury is supposed to be able to hear somebody like me as a defendant going, well, here's the law, and I'm putting you on judicial notice. And here's something I just found in my judicial notice in section, whatever part of judicial notice there, right at the bottom. Law of nature.
Yeah.
I'll all be darned, which is probably the reason why they didn't really like me forcing them on judicial notice on this sucker right here.
Right.
Okay. Because this is the law of nature. It's in there in that Declaration of Independence. And that law of nature actually comes from Christianity in the Virginia Declaration of Rights.
Yep.
When we were just talking,
it's funny, you know, we talk about
76. All of those declarations there are part of our ideology laid down as the law. We got that Declaration for the Causes and Necessity of Taking Up Arms, July 6, 1775.
Right.
That's a year prior to the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
Right. But that's the first declaration in our succession of declaring the law, laying down the law, because Black's Law Dictionary defines law as that which is laid down, ordained, and established. You lay down the law through declarations, and then you ordain your style of government and form of government. You ordain and establish it.
And that's not a democracy, that is a republic. Just
right. In our style of government, okay, as a republic, you do that through constitutions. There are other nations that are not republics. Okay, they're straight communists. I don't know, China. China's a good one.
Laura says judicial notice means they ignored by judges. Good point, Laura.
Good point. He tried, but I flat out told him they are being served with it. I had 2 other copies of this with me, and the bailiff came over and grabbed him. He one to the judge and one to her attorney over there. He tried to cut me off and say that, well, the Declaration of Independence isn't law. And I said, well, I guess you're not aware of the proclamation from December 8th, 2017, from our President Trump, who reestablished the rule of law.
Right.
The Declaration.
Here's where it gets tricky, and a lot of people get confused on that.
And the Bill of Rights.
Right. Here's where a lot of people get confused on this. Okay. We talk about the difference between the theory of law and the practice of law. We talk about the law and its literal meaning, and it's clear in plain language. You know, I hear a lot. I mean, you know, you name it, we've talked about it, or more than likely have expected to. What we only get a chance to touch on is the actual practice, the difference between the theory of it and the practice of it. And I live in the realm of the practice. Okay. And then, you know, with practice, there's different types of practice. I mean, we have practices of science, practices of mathematics, different, you know, there's all these different practices. So when these attorneys say they're practicing law, no, they're not. They're practicing statutes, codes, rules, and regulations. It's not law, right? So when we talk about what's the difference, right? Well, remember when I do the demos on the whiteboard, you know, I always use that line. Okay, there's the over and the under. Well, in the over side, okay, that's where you believe you are. But once you sign on that dotted line, you are attorned below the line. Now you're in the negative side. That's where the statutes, codes, rules, and regulations are. That's the lower form of nobility. That's where the government's supposed to be, right? So when they attorn you and literally drag you down into the swamp, right, that's their practice. It's that thing, that lack of disclosure. And I said, you know what? I got a problem with that, because in my practice, whether I like it or whether I don't, if a client tells me to do it, then I got to do it. Right.
Well,
so
it's in accordance with the law.
Yeah. I mean, as long as I'm not breaking the law, right. It is what it is. So, and one of the things that cements that contract is when you pay somebody to do something, right? So, and knowing, of course, that, you know, like this stuff, you know, other than my contract clients that I work for during the day, that's guaranteed. That's stuff I can guarantee, right? Why? Because there's a mathematical equation in a certain format that we can follow, and we can do that same thing every time and get the same result every time. So that is the way we collect that data and assemble it into that report. That is a measurable success, right? Remember, nobody measures success. The only thing people measure is what they think you did wrong. Well, you know, yeah. So what you think I did wrong and what I actually do is two different things, but that's another old animal. And that's, again, that's the different realm between the theory and the practice, right? So
Laura,
when we're down here practicing and we're working the science, and these attorneys have been taught that, oh, statutes, codes, rules, and regulations, that's our stuff. That's what we do. Well, that's not law.
Right.
Right. That's stuff that we use to manage you. Where the hell did you get the idea that you can take that shit and manage me with it?
Yeah.
Right. And when we made that transition, that was basically what it had done was during the Obama administration, he expanded what was called prosecutorial discretion. Right. And in other words, they can attorn you and prosecute you for whatever the hell they wanted. That's basically what they did.
Mm-hmm.
So we start seeing a lot of what's now, I'm just going to call it repugnant legislation. Take, for example, how they're misusing. Say that again?
They're bills of attainder.
Right. I'm going to give you a specific example here I've discovered recently. There is a law called eminent domain. And what that is basically designed to do is keep them from building a school next to a nuclear power plant, right? Or an industrial park that emits toxic gases, or, you know, something like that. That's its intended purpose, is to be able to say, hey, look, as the government, we know we can't own land, but we know we got to put a power plant here, or we know we got to put a road here, or we know we got to something related to infrastructure, right? We got to put a water plant or treatment facility here, right?
Right.
Okay. That is to acquire that land, that space, right? And dedicate it its highest and best use to something of infrastructure, right? That's called eminent domain. Now, I would say here back in 2009 or 10 in Florida, they expanded eminent domain to include private sector contractors and stuff, right? Here's the problem with that.
You
A lot of people started getting booted out of their house, right?
You can't expand that.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what they did, but they expanded it not in the law. They expanded it in the statutes, codes, rules, and regulations.
Right.
Well, once they drag you down into that attornment, guess what they think you're subject to now under admiralty jurisdiction because you've been attorned to it. This is the part that a lot of people don't understand. They don't comprehend it because they've never been taught the difference between the theory, which is what we talk about here, and the practice, which is what I do when I'm out here, right? So the more I'm out here explaining to these people who are sitting in these seats that they themselves don't understand the difference between the theory and the practice, and how the hell did we get from here to where we are now, right? And I can put it right on the whiteboard, which I do for them all day, every day. And, it's making sense to them now. And they're going, oh my God, you're right. We have to equalize this. The rest of this crap actually has to go away because it's nothing more than a waste of our time.
Yeah.
You think? So in other words, the reality of, hey, we don't need more law. We need less. We don't need more statutes, codes, rules, and regulations. We need less statutes, codes, rules, and regulations. Because ultimately what they're trying to get us to do is to legislate the human condition. No. To even think about that under the guise of social control is repugnant to our form of government. And I'm showing them that every single time I walk in and discuss, pick a guidance document, pick a policy, pick a procedure, pick a case. I can pick every one of them apart. And you know what? When it comes into how it affects public trust, consumer confidence, remember those two things that are equal? They're like, well, no wonder big business made a whole bunch of big money over those years. It's got guys like you that are literally running it. Oh, I'm like, well, again, nobody ever asked me for this before. When President Trump came out and said, hey, I need help from the citizenry, I said, okay, where do I sign? Okay, I read it, comprehended it. There's a word, comprehended it, and said, here you go. We're going to call it that.
Yeah.
And the more I started to read it, the more I started to research it. I said, well, hey, there's this word in American jurisprudence that directly affects public trust and consumer confidence.
Imagine
Guess
that.
what my job was? Protect consumer confidence. Son of a bitch. There's where E-Clause was born. So, when it comes into how I actually got into doing this, I've always done it. I've just never used it this way. So, and that's where I'm actually starting to enjoy it, because the more of these meetings that I have with these people, and the more they start to comprehend the difference between what the law says. We know what the law says. Like, for example, I can't walk into the court and lie. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Glad you were there to tell me that.
It took them that long to get to the Supreme Court.
Oh, the ninth district appellate level never made it to the Supreme Court, but ninth district appellate level, it was that's as far as they need to go.
That's part of the Supreme Court. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is part of the Supreme Court.
No, that's the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Is the next thing above them is SCOTUS. So if that case would have gone any farther, that would have went to SCOTUS.
But that's still within the Supreme Court.
It is within the Supreme Court. And to be guaranteed, SCOTUS would have looked at that and said, don't even bring me that case. I will beat you to death with it. And they would have been right to do that. So, when it comes into, how did loss prevention come into being? And the answer is evolution, right? The more they started to inflict these statutes, codes, rules, and regulations, bills of attainder, the corporate mechanism, or the corporate world, we developed a defense mechanism and called it loss prevention, because we needed something to hold that spine of the company up, right? And manage these different, policies and departments. We call them departments in the corporate world. Call them the alphabet soup out here in the public sector. So again, this is not new to me, but doing the translation is becoming more difficult at times than others. But anyway, nevertheless, we're actually doing some pretty neat stuff down here, and we're actually enjoying it.
So yeah, it's a call-in show tonight, folks. Got any questions?
Brenda did on her exam. Come on, Brenda, call in. Tell us how you did on that exam. I want to know.
But she went to law school. Did she pass?
She actually did. She did damn good.
Oh, she is going to law school?
No, I don't know about law school, but she is going to college.
Oh.
She's kicking butt, though.
Yeah, I thought it was law school. She's going to be a paralegal, I believe. Is that right, Brenda?
Yep.
Oh, well, that's cool.
I think that's what the deal is there. But yeah, she's been passing with flying colors. I think one test she actually got 110% somehow. She said she did. She got
that does surprise me.
Extra credit on something. But she's doing great down there in Alabama.
She's like, of course I passed. Oh, she's studying criminal justice. Okay.
Criminal justice.
That's a different form of criminology. Oh, good.
Criminal justice?
That's the one.
Criminal. That's like aminal.
Is that like paying a pension?
Are they actually teaching you the law, or are they teaching you color of law?
I'd be interested to know what the new criminal evidence book looks like.
Criminal evidence?
Yeah. Did you take CrimEv, Brenda? I know it's going to take a minute for that to catch up. But CrimEv was a neat class, criminal evidence.
What's funny is about that evidence, it's the rules of evidence, period. It's not just criminal evidence. It's not just civil evidence. Again, like we went over here last week and had that pulled up there. We
Right.
have to put them on notice that we want them to follow the strict rules of evidence.
Right.
What the heck? I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of backwards. I shouldn't have to put anybody on notice that I want you to follow the law.
Right. So I said it's bass backwards. You mean to tell me I have to literally torn you back up to where the law says? You're an idiot.
This is where they play on our ignorance, not knowing that, our rules of evidence over here that we're playing with say that we can do this. But if you put us on notice that we have to actually follow the law when it comes to evidence, none of this is admissible. Guess what? I found that in your rules of procedure.
Yeah.
And so guess what they're getting here shortly? A notice to follow strict compliance with the rules of evidence.
Right.
Which means
And guess what?
federal rules of evidence, because anything that comes in conflict with the federal rules of evidence is void.
And guess what? The only thing the only evidence that can be allotted is evidence that was obtained legally, right? So
no hearsay, no hearsay within hearsay.
Exactly. So for example, when the department came through and declared the allegations against you unsubstantiated, that's confirmation to take those allegations and kick them to the curb, right?
Like that hat, Jack. Anita Seiderfeld, she gave this hat, standing them out for her campaign. Drain the Swamp, Idaho.
Uh-huh. Oh, you're going to love forensics, Brenda. You are going to absolutely love that. Humanities, that's sociology. You will probably pull your hair out.
Some hard, crazy math like 2 + 2.
No, actually, they do get into some of the higher mathematics. They touch into calculus, but not. It's a lot of geometry. Like, for example, you're going to learn how to measure skid marks at a traffic at an accident scene. And
so she's not okay. So she's not going to law school for like an attorney.
Yeah, no. She's studying criminal justice, but when there's a class in the police academy, it's called Streets, that is going to that actually takes the forensics and expands it. Sounds like they're going to start to kind of introduce you into that law enforcement realm, where you'll be able to pick up a packet from from an accident scene and be able to look at it and examine it and say, who was at fault, type of a thing, so some of that stuff is pretty cool.
Yeah. We got a guy on here, Brian Vagabond, Roddy. So when's he going to drain the swamp? Well, Here's the thing. The swamp's been accumulating for, a little over 200 years. For any man to go in there and just pull the plug and have it drained in 1 year is just unconscionable. There's no way that's going to happen. If we actually understand the, the magnitude of what we are all facing and what Trump is facing, when we're talking about the deep state, the corruption, the international banking cartel, the drug cartel, the child pedophilia ring.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge. You can't just go in and start pluck. You'll end up dead. Crap, they shot Kennedy for less than what Trump's already said. And let me tell you, Trump's been preparing for this stuff because he knows. I've watched his campaign. I've watched him throughout this last year. I know what he's saying. I know what he's talking about. I'm following his executive orders. I'm following some of his writings. I'm following some of his videos. So I'm hearing it from the horse's mouth.
Right.
So.
Right. And that's, and that's true. And see, there we go. Jack's got a good point. The swamp has many levers, and that's true. So when you talk about the draining process, okay, you think of, take this coffee cup as the pipe, right? Well, the swamp is actually up to here, but one of the levers we pull, we only want to drain little bits of it at a time. If we drain that sucker all the way down and all runs in there, we're going to start losing all kinds of good shit. We don't want to lose the good shit. We just want to dump the bad shit. We want to keep the good shit. So, and that's an interesting way of putting that. That's excellent, Jack. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, who knows? He may have been part of the swamp initially at some point in time, but the simple fact of the matter is it formed around every one of us, right? And next thing you know, every one of us is hit deep in swamp shit. Well, somebody had to find that lever and drain that and pull that drain plug. It was just time, right? And that's why those of us who do what we do are, we've raised some eyebrows. Believe me, we have raised some eyebrows. Because, when it boils down to it, and we actually are able to sit down and have a conversation with some of these people, it's surprising, number one, what they don't know. Yeah. It completely astounds me what we think they know that they don't know. And there's two there's two confirmations of this. For example, I say this all the time. When you pick up the phone and you're talking to somebody about your case, remember, number one, you're talking to somebody who knows nothing about you. They know nothing about your case. They know that you're there to discuss an issue with them, right? So it's how you come across in that discussion, that practice, right? That meeting is a practice. Okay. So what's the best way to do that? Number one, you have to give them the due credit that they don't know what the hell is going on, because they don't. It seems pretty basic, but it's true. They don't know. So if you go in there and you son of a bitch, they're going to toss you out on your ear and you're never going to hear from them again. But if you go in there and you say, look, here's a problem. Here's my theory on how we got here. Here's another theory on how we fix it. And by the way, the theory I'm presenting to you gives you point and click oversight of the thing that we're talking about. So we don't have to have this conversation again. Right. And that's a whole different, scope of a meeting, because you're not just going in there. You're not just standing there barking at them. You're saying, look, we understand there's a problem. I'm not going to bore you with the details, because chances are you've heard it once or twice before. So let's just skip that part. Let's get to what do we do that fixes it. And to do what they did in expanding prosecutorial discretion, but not expanding the practice of law to go with it, is it any wonder that it flipped upside, actually went left, and damn near flipped us over the left side of the boat? Well, guess what? That was the goal, right? We know it. So
I'm going to post these documents here again from the White House. This, the first one I'm posting there, is the proclamation from December 8th, 2017. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to share the executive orders, so you folks can read these and kind of get a better idea of what's actually going on.
Right.
Aside from what mainstream media is telling you, and
right.
Brian keeps asking, well, when's he going to do it? When's he going to drain the swamp? Well, read this stuff and you'll see what's going on. You'll see that it is happening.
Read the omnibus bill. Seriously, read the omnibus bill.
It is not going to happen overnight.
No, not if we want to keep our country.
We're talking total annihilation if you want to get rid of it. But this last one here, is invoking the military. And this is an executive order that he dug up from 1984 that was already on the books. Mm-hmm. So this isn't like something new. Okay. So you have to understand that this is just, he's amended parts of it, and it will, the amended parts, some of them are effective now. Some of them will come into an effect until January 1st, 2019.
Right.
But all of the other stuff that was in the 1984 executive order is in full force and effect since 1984. So here's that executive order for you.
Hi, Dawn. That's baby mamas out there. I just want to give a shout out to Dawn. What's happening?
Well, I also think Jeff Sessions is on his way out. Just so you know.
Yeah.
Got to remember, Trump has to play it cool when he first gets in there. He can't just go in there all half-cocked and say, you're out of here, you're out of here, I'm only going to do this. No, because they'll just frickin' kill him. He has to play the game of, I'll play ball. And what he's doing over here in the background is he's lining things up. Are you folks aware that we spent $11 million remodeling Gitmo, Guantanamo Bay, for high-profile inmates? Trump said that back in June.
Right.
2017.
Right.
Hey, are you aware of that? Who are these high-profile inmates?
Right.
Well,
and look at the other thing. You ever heard the old adage, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer? Right?
Yep.
If there are really bad actors, and this is exactly what he did. Okay, he took some of the swampers, brought them into his thing. You know what? I got to get some information from these people. This is not going to be an easy process. right? Again, we do this in business. We've been doing it in business for years. You got to find out who the bad actor really is.
Yeah.
The only way to do that is you bring them in and you have to do the interview with them, whether it's you give them a job and you let them expose themselves, because they do every single time, every time. So
right.
That's the right way to get rid of them.
That's exactly it right there. That's exactly it.
Right.
Like every other president, they tell us what we want to hear. There's one thing about telling us versus what Trump is doing. Trump is putting it in writing. Read those executive orders. Go research the law that is in there. Okay.
Right.
Read it, because that is in writing. And that is an executive order. That is what our president is doing.
Right.
Okay. One of the very first things that he did when he got into office was remove us from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPPN. Right. Okay.
Yep.
That saved us a buttload of money right off the get-go. Anybody aware of that? Okay.
Well,
there's lots of things.
So too, I want to throw
our taxes.
They're real fast.
Okay. Some might think that's pretty insignificant, but let's look at our economy right now. Job market. I don't know, the lowest unemployment rate we've ever had.
Yeah.
The 30s. Okay. Right. The stock market is the highest it's ever been.
Right.
Okay. So
here's the other thing too. I don't know if anybody out there heard this the other night, but when if you're paying attention to what's going on behind the scenes, like I am, like Kirk is, and I know there are plenty of you out there that are doing the same. There was an interview that Sean Hannity did with Devin Nunes, and Devin Nunes is really basically providing a lot of oversight in the Trump-Russia collusion thing, right? So what he's going after is the process that dossier crap that was fictitiously created that they used to get the warrant to go after Trump. So in the interview, guess what word he used when he described the FISA court? He called it the Department of Justice weaponized it. I almost fell out of my chair when that word came out of his mouth, because I know damn well where he got that word. The word's been sitting on his desk in the form of my reporting since I started the follow-up series called The Weaponized Family Court. I've been tweeting about it and posting cover pages about it for months now. So, like I say, if you don't think they're paying attention to what you're doing or what we're doing, think again.
Yeah.
Right. So, going back to that original statement, don't just go out there and start blasting these people because they don't know. You go in there and you help them and give them a solution that says, hey, we're in the same boat, bro. And here's how we know this. They can go, that's something you can give them that they can chew on. And that's basically what we're doing, man, is we're giving them something they can chew on. And they're doing it. So, as long as they're doing it, I've got no bitch. And there's no reason for me to rock a boat.
Now, Brian here, he says the economy is arguably still at a stall since 2008. I'll disagree, because I was a third year apprentice electrician in 2008 when the economy took a crap.
Right.
And I watched well over 500 electricians in this valley lose their jobs. And I'm going to tell you right now, in this valley, I've seen a lot of those electricians starting to go back to work. So as for the stock markets, you got me on that one, because I don't know really jack shit about stock market. So I'm not going to talk about something I don't know about. But I do know that it's up. So that's all the further I can give on that. So if anybody's got any other further information on that, which it seems that Brian might know something that I about that. So still, I'm well aware that our business, jobs are going up. Another thing to understand is that by cutting our ties and giving money to other countries and supporting them, first of all, that saves us money in taxes because we don't have to pay that in taxes, right? So like the latest one I just posted earlier today with China cutting $500 billion a year that we're losing to China. Okay. And then another 2 to 300 billion a year in what is that? Basically stealing people's ideas. Okay, intellectual property.
Right.
So if somebody were to create something over here and they take it over there and they take it all apart, it was called reverse engineering, and they build whatever they need to build to make that in the cheap Chinese form and sell it. Okay, that's intellectual property that you're stealing. So you have to pay for the use of that. You have to seek permission.
Right.
And we actually have a patent law. When somebody creates something, they put a patent on it, and nobody can use it for a certain amount of time. Sometimes it's a year, sometimes it's 3 years, sometimes it's 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what it is and all that good stuff. So right there, if Trump were to fix that,
right,
the issue with China, trade, intellectual property infringement, okay, that's $700 to $800 billion per year.
Right. Well, and here's the other thing too. When we talk about, see, that's a good point. You're talking about intellectual property. Okay. I'm going to break this down very, very simple. I trademarked that symbol. That's all I did. Mm-hmm. Everything else that makes up what this does, I haven't even thought about attempting to patent or trademark that. Why? Because that would be counterproductive to my intended purpose, which is equalize the practice of law, right? So, you talk about what you can patent, what type of intellectual property and this type of thing and that type of thing. Yeah, I could lay claim to the negative nexus if I wanted to. But you know what? Again, that would be counterproductive, and I'm not going to do that for two reasons. Number one, that's not why I started doing this. And number two, there's just no way in hell I could have enough hours in the day. And I don't care if they gave me $10 trillion to go build an E-clause next to every Walgreens in the country. I wouldn't do that either. So what I want to do is I want to teach every one of you to do it yourself. You don't need me. You don't need some damn attorney. Every one of you guys are smart enough to handle this, man. So, and believe me, there are those out there doing it, and they're kicking ass. Yeah. Seriously.
Thomas asks about assault rifles. What is our thoughts on about that? Well, as a Marine Corps veteran, I'm going to tell you right now, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Shall means you can't touch that. Okay.
Right.
And the fact that it's in the Bill of Rights as a fundamental right, the right to protect your life, your liberty, your pursuit of happiness, and part of what I was just talking about earlier there, that the Second Amendment actually comes from declared as laid down in the law, which I was talking about a minute ago or a few minutes ago here, is the Declaration for the Causes and Necessity of Taking Up Arms, July 6, 1775.
Right.
1 year prior to the Declaration of Independence.
Right.
That's actually the first part of laying down the law of our ideology in this nation. And we have to create a nation first. So
when you talk about the First Amendment, those were the Bills of Rights, right?
So the reason why we have the right to keep and bear arms,
it says so. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Well, this is the thing we need to understand here is who all does this stuff apply to? This doesn't apply to we the people. This applies to the people who are elected officials or public servants. We're the masters. This is the guide to keep them in line. Okay, this is what tells them what they can and cannot do, what they can bring into being, and what they cannot bring into being.
Correct. And because it is a right of the people, right? It's not a right of the government. It's a right of the people, right?
So that would be a delegation of power not to delegate it. So again, you understand
if they take an emolument, whether it's a seat, whether it's a paycheck, whether it's anything in government, one of those, the emoluments, if they take one of those, they attorn themselves into that lower form of nobility. That's the difference. We have allowed them to attorn us into that lower form of nobility, hence the swamp, right?
Yeah.
So remember, don't fall for that, no pun intended, because guess what? In that, and in every one of the amendments, the Bills of Rights, and the general language of the Constitution, these words appear several different times and in several different contexts, but they're all the right of the people, right? And those 5 words in context right there, it means every one of us who does not work in government, right? That's one of the reasons why, as a for-profit corporation, I provide a service to the government, right? If the government decides they want to pay me for that at some point, which it hasn't happened yet. So I don't know who the hell is telling you that, but they're full of shit. So if somebody's telling you that, make them produce the transactions because I want to see them. And the other thing is, guess what? I don't care if you're fixing a car. I don't care if you're building a house. I don't care if you're writing a contract. When that job is done, you have the right to be paid, whatever that project is. So this whole entitlement mentality, guess what? You kick that shit right out the door, because as far as I'm concerned, when I'm finished, I've started this project, and when I finish this project, that's it. Everything that I've done will be here for everybody to use. The only thing I ask is I'm taking my company with me, but everything I've done to do it, it's for you guys. That's called providing a service. So, and that's one of the reasons why somebody had said something earlier today. That's why you get away with it. I don't get away with jack shit. I've declared that as my right. It's my right to do this. It's my fiduciary duty to do this, moron. So
talking about assault rifles and bump stocks, and again, you gotta understand, President Trump doesn't make the law stuff. Okay, guys, that's Congress, by the way. And Trump duped him in this omnibus bill. That's not a real budget. And this is something, I'll admit, I just learned about an omnibus bill. Okay.
It's in everything.
So an omnibus bill doesn't bind the president to any of it. All it is here's a bunch of money to keep us from shutting the government down. Okay, so this is what Trump did. He's like, okay, give me the money for building my military up. Give me money for building the wall. And oh, by the way, let me slip this money in there. Military tribunals to go after public servants, or, civil servants, public officers. Okay, this is where we got to tie this in, because that's what it says in there. What he wanted that money for was to go after them. Mm-hmm. Okay, not the American people. And then he talks about going after the drug, like the drug cartel, and the people giving out poisonous drugs, like pharmaceutical companies, the ones that are poisoning our kids. Okay, he flat out says that. All right. So what we're actually talking about is the vaccine stuff and the stuff that goes on with CPS and all that good stuff. Okay. So yes, Brian, I understand that he signed it. Great. What he signed, which you need to understand, none of it is legally binding upon the president. It is an omnibus bill. It is not a passed budget by Congress. Okay. This is something I just learned. So, maybe you folks don't know about this yet. So I'm sharing it with you so you can learn this. An omnibus bill is not a passed budget by Congress. It's a throw it all together here's a bunch of money to keep it. None of it is under budget. None of it says this amount of money goes here, and the president is bound by this.
Right. That's the difference between a bill and an action. An action would have required him to say $10 million goes here, $10 million goes here, and so on and so on and so on. That's not what it was. Now, under when we go to, which also goes to back to, I believe it was Thomas's question about the Second Amendment, where it says no bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed, right? Yeah. So in other words, for them to come out and they want to try to regulate whatever they want to regulate with respect to guns and firearms. Guess what? That's ex post facto legislation. It's void from its inception. They can pass all they want. Guess what? We're not held to it. We can hold them to it, but they can't hold us to it. That's the difference, right? They can limit themselves however much they want. If they think they want to send our troops into battle without bump stocks in their firearms, guess what? I got a problem with that. I think our military should have full automatic weapons. So
I'll be honest. I've shot automatic weapons in the Marine Corps, clear up to the Mark 19, which is a fully automatic 40 millimeter grenade gun. Okay. I will take a single shot per round full, other than the M16A2, 3-round burst. Okay. And even at a 3-round burst, in the Marine Corps, we're taught 1 shot, 1 kill. So even the bump stock, fine. You can have the bump stock. I don't care. It actually makes the weapon less accurate. For those of you that actually, know about guns and rifles and how all that stuff works. So,
right. Because once that thing starts to repeat, you're not going anywhere. It take you forever to try to manage that, that kickback, right?
Okay. Right. And so here's another thing for you folks out there to understand. The first few shots that somebody shoots at you, they're not going to hit you. So why? Because most people don't spend the time practicing to be accurate with their weapon.
Right.
Okay? So that's the difference between military trained people and people that are not. And this is something they taught us in the Marine Corps. Plain and simple. The first 3 or 4 shots are not going to hit you. So in that time, if you take your time, 1 shot, 1 kill, you take your time, you get focused, you take your aim, 1 shot, 1 kill. That's why Marines are so deadly, because, because we're taught to not fear those bullets whizzing by our head, because we know that they're, statistically, they're not going to hit us.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Dawn asked a question. She said, didn't Trump put some of his own money into this country, or is it a rumor? No, it's actually true. And here's how he did it. I'll tell you how he did it. One example.
Brian says excessive spending. It's not excessive spending. Do you realize how much Trump has cut back?
Well, going back to the question.
And again, we're only in the first year. You wait until January 1st, 2019, what happens?
Well, yeah, let me go back to answering Don's question. Don's question was, did Trump put some of his own money into this country? And the answer is yes, he did. And the one most evident way he did that was when foreign dignitaries do come to the country, he puts them up in one of his own hotels. Now, to not accept payment for that service would be disrespectful to that other country. What does he do with the money? He gives the money back to the Federal Reserve. And that's all in the contracts. So for anybody to say that Trump is profiting from foreign dignitaries is full of shit. Read the contract. Because I can tell you, I've read all that stuff. And every dime of that, and even certain percentages that could be potentially brought into question over and above what's definitive, will also be returned to the Federal Reserve. So if he gets $10,000, he takes maybe $11,000 just to make sure that everything is accounted for and gives it to the Federal Reserve. Read the paperwork. It's all there. So and when it comes to does he do it? Yes, he does it. So he's not just serving his country, he's helping fund his country.
Right.
Over and above his tax return, which that whole thing. I still crack up every time I think about that. Expose that CNN tried to do, and we're going to expose him as not paying his taxes, and it came out he paid more in taxes than most people make in a year. So come on.
Well, Jack here, he makes that comment of how many bodies would have been laying in that field in Las Vegas. Okay, that's a pretty good statement there, or question, because in reality, the amount of rounds per minute that was apparently by sound was raining down on the crowd of people down there. Bodies should have been dropping like flies.
Right.
In a group like that, fully automatic is very effective, okay? Because every single square inch of the field down there is a target. It's kind of hard not to miss that. Anybody watch some of the D-Day stuff,
right?
You got the bunkers and the nests up there, they just mow people down coming right off of the PT boats.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as that gate dropped, lead's just flying in there, and if there was a machine gun nest that was aimed in on that PT boat when it dropped, most all of the guys in there died,
right,
almost instantly. They just mowed them freaking down because they're all grouped up. So the reality is obviously there wasn't that many rounds coming down range, which makes me think of, I don't know, blanks, a bunch of sound. I watched a couple of different videos on that, and I'm like, as many rounds as it sounds like that there's going down range,
right?
There should be bodies and blood, and
you would think
heads exploding, people being flipped over.
Yep.
You don't just stand there and take a bullet. Okay, that shit knocks you around, throws you around. Stuff explodes when bullets hit you.
Yep.
That shit's, it's not like in the movies.
Right.
Yeah. So our head's like a freaking watermelon. It explodes.
Right.
When it gets hit with a bullet.
Yeah.
So I didn't see any of that there in Vegas.
Watch the Kennedy assassination. What happened to John F. Kennedy's head when he got shot? That's what happens when you get shot with a bullet. Right. Mm-hmm. So, again, we're talking very low caliber, probably or either high velocity, right? High velocity round will do less damage because it's more fast piercing than a slower velocity round. Slower velocity round does actually a lot more damage. And again, that's a lot of the science that most people don't know about the ballistics and forensics of weapons and firearms. So, those of us who have studied this stuff, and it's kind of a hobby, to come out and say, so make some of these claims that are coming out now. It's like my head wants to explode just listening to some of this crap.
I know.
Like, guys, come on. Do your homework. If somebody's going to make an allegation, right? And how many of us have been hit with false allegations? I mean, I got it around here somewhere. The unsubstantiated, thank you for stopping by, but your allegations were nothing but bullshit letter. Okay. Right. There's coming in like they're throwing at me like Skittles, man. Well, the answer is because there was nothing there. There was nothing to prove. So, this is the same thing. The difference is we have a group of obstructionists, and I'm not going to go into any names because I don't want to give them the benefit of it. As far as I'm concerned, they don't even exist. And all we really got to do is we're going to take, and from my model, is take the negative nexus and factor their ass right out of there. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're factoring them out. It's all in the numbers. It's all in the math. So there is going to come a time where that reversal happens. And once that reversal happens, that's where are we putting our lawn chair, bro? Because this is going to get ugly.
So Brian asks, do you believe full auto firearms should be banned? No. And in fact, if we read in the Articles of Confederation, and then coupled with Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, supports arsenals and magazines. Okay, back to the Articles of Confederation. Our government there is supposed to make sufficient arms available, including campage equipment. Okay, available in the stores. Now, back then, when we're talking about late 1700s, what that actually meant is storage, in the storage, in those arsenals and magazines. Okay, that's what was supposed to be by the consent of the state, to allow federal government to purchase that land for magazines and arsenals, so that if anything breaks out, and they're supposed to be the same arms that the military has. Now, those are just supposed to be little bunkers there, little buildings. Okay, and so when things break out, we're supposed to have sufficient arms and ammunition right there in our own state to, okay, let's go. We're being invaded here. Okay, so here's some arms. Get over there and get your ammunition and get your butt out there on the front line. Yep. That's how the militia is supposed to work.
Correct.
That's part of the first part of the Second Amendment, right? Necessary for the security and safety of a state. Okay, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Right. How are we supposed to secure our state if the people aren't armed?
Right.
That's what it's supposed to be about.
Foreign invasion, right?
We the people are self-governed. We're a republic here. Yeah. We're not a democracy. We're not a communist. You know, we're not a monarch. We ditched that crap.
Yeah.
In fact, they were trying to ditch it clear back as far back as 1215 with the Magna Carta.
So
and it's been going on for millennium.
Back to your point, right? When we talk about these, the arsenals, we've got one right down here in Lake County. I could be there in 20 minutes. What's coming for us, right? We're talking about foreign invasion, right? Mm-hmm. Guess what's coming for us coming right up through Mexico, right? Don't pay too much attention to what the cameras are showing you, because they're only showing you the select groups they want you to see. Those are the human shields, the women and the children. Guess where else they're using human shields? Family court.
Yeah.
It's the same people, man. When weapons of mass distraction. I tell everybody all the time, you want to know what their playbook is? I've posted it in the kids group. Read George Orwell's 1984. I mean, this is literally their strategy playbook. You could damn near turn the pages and watch the evening news and go, son of a bitch. And it's like, there it is. Almost every night, it's the same couple of pages. I've done it just for giggles. And, change the meanings of words, right? We've talked about this before. Domestic violence. What is domestic violence in the context of the 1700s when it was written? It's got nothing to do with you and your wife or you and your husband.
And the Constitution as it is written here.
Domestic violence is violence in the domestic, within our
domestic tranquility.
Right. So, our the law of the late nature, the law of the land. So for them to pervert the meaning of the words domestic violence, which is exactly what they've done through these practices that they call family law, right? The problem, the answer's in the question. The answer's in the document. They literally admit to this shit. All we got to do is just think, well, how did we get here? Well, remember, they've torn us down into that. No, they're not. I said, no, you're not. And I'm going to show you how to do it and do it the right way. Oh, wait. American jurisprudence says that's the way it's supposed to be done. So, and apparently Kirk is looking for something, sparked an interest there in his.
I wanted to see where exactly it says that domestic violence.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that once on one of the earlier shows. Actually, yeah. I think you brought it up.
Yep, it's in the Constitution here.
Yeah,
of the United States of America.
Right.
I wanted to say it was in Article 1, but
right, exactly. Violence in the domicile. Very good point, Nate Cruz. So, night, Dawn. Hey, wave. Say hi to new baby mama and new grandbaby for me. So, yeah.
It's here though. Somewhere.
Well, I was expecting we'd get a phone call or two to 6 or 7 tonight.
Yeah. What's going on with that?
Yeah. Had a bunch of people that
we're educating the people so well they don't have questions for us.
That's cool. No problem. I could do this.
Get some rest, Brenda.
Yep. Get ready to take that test, Brenda. Yeah.
And it is propaganda, Jack.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
That's been that way for a long time, and here's some more dropping some bombs out there. World War I, World War II, Pearl Harbor, Vietnam. Are you folks aware that the international banking cartel is the one that funded both sides of those wars and those fights? Talk about propaganda, talk about false flags, talk about can't even keep the story straight in history of what actually happened there in Pearl Harbor. Can't keep the story straight about what happened in Vietnam.
Read Cindy's comment. If Mueller had Trump's son in an undisclosed location until he pleads guilty to Russian involvement, you could call his investigation family court. Cindy, that is out of the park accurate, baby. Out of the park accurate. Oh, man.
I don't see it.
Cindy Bauer's comment. And that is 100% accurate, babe. That is perfect. That is exactly correct.
I missed it, and I still can't find it.
You can't find Cindy's comment?
I see hi, guys.
Yeah. Cindy Bowers. She's right, too.
Sometimes it shows and sometimes it doesn't. It's kind of weird. I've seen comments on my phone that I don't see on here, and I see comments on here that I don't see on my phone.
Yeah. Hey, that's those algorithms that we love so much.
Yep. Because I'm not seeing Cindy's comment at all.
Yeah. That is by far that is the most accurate comment I've seen all night. She's nailed that sucker, boy.
Yeah, I see thank you. I see hi guys and thank you. Nothing in between.
I'll read it again. It says, if Mueller had Trump's son in an undisclosed location until he pleads guilty to Russian involvement, you could call his investigation family court. Oh, man. Cindy is awesome, dude. That's what I said. You say what you want. That's one of the reasons why, these moms, they've nailed this shit. That's why I said, you piss a mom off, you just duck, and it's like if you take that anger and that energy and you direct that shit in the right direction, You just sit there and go, oh God, that's going to leave a mark. I don't know who's going to clean that up, but it ain't going to be me. So, it's just like, oh God, that is the most accurate statement of the day.
That's crazy. Even on my phone, it's not on here. I see where she says, hi guys, and thank you guys. Nothing in between on my phone or on my other laptop over here.
Brenda says, I have to study those algorithms. Have fun with that, babe.
Yeah, censorship.
Have some fun with algorithms.
Right. It's gotten crazy.
Yeah.
There's some crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, man. That's right. Exactly, Tanya. They find these truths to be self-evident. Yes, we do. And, it's funny when I sit back and I go back through this stuff, and it's too bad she's gone now, because that's my favorite story. When Don looked at those guys and told them, you guys are so screwed, when he figures out how to use what he does for a living to fix this problem. Yeah, she did, dude. She turned around and walked away. It was like, okay, Mama has spoken. I have no idea what she just said, but I'm going to take that as gospel, because she's never been wrong yet. So.
Yeah. Ooh, Zuckerberg doesn't like Cindy's comment from Joyce. Yeah. Brenda says she can't see it either. Nathan says he can't see it.
Oh, man.
No.
Maybe Cindy has to change her privacy settings or something.
Well, I was able to see her hi, guys, and thanks, guys.
Oh, that's right.
So
I got it. I see it just fine. Right there. Too bad these aren't numbered. If these were numbered, we could probably go back and say, oh, look at number, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. What you could do, though, is go in there after the show and go in and comment on her comment and then tag me in it.
Right. Good call.
And we'll see if it brings me into
Adolf Zuckerberg.
That comment. Unless somebody marked it as spam. Adolf Zuckerberg. He's even gotten his butt in the hot water right now too. So
yeah. Notice the argument they're using against him.
Yes, we can see you, Russell.
Yeah.
What's happening, brother? I had a pretty good conversation with Russell the other day.
Yeah.
Another fellow patriot doing the fight.
Nice. Welcome, Russell.
Some of these other people, I don't even recognize some of your guys' names, Brian and
yep. Yeah, we've got some new viewers. Jack's new.
Welcome to the show.
We've seen Thomas. That was an interesting gun debate he brought up. Tricia. Welcome, Tricia. Joyce.
And usually
Joyce. Huh?
Usually we on Wednesday nights is the call-in show. It was just a Monday night show where we're just teaching the law. Like I would read from books like this. Annals of America, 21 volume set. This happens to be volume 3. This one's from 1784 through 1796.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good stuff in there too, but I like my volume 2 better because it's the actual, part of the laying down the law of our ideology and some really great things that happen there. But, Mondays is usually where we teach the law stuff, and we started getting overwhelmed with people asking questions. And so we decided to do a second show through the week, which is tonight, Wednesday nights, and open it up for phone calls. So
Brian asks a very good question.
Where do rights come from?
You want to go ahead and answer it? You want me to answer it?
Well, it comes from your law. Who lays down the law? It depends on your nation.
We hold the truths self-evident.
Our rights come from the law of nature, from Christianity, the Holy Bible. That's in the Virginia Declaration of Rights.
That's our ideology, right?
Right, that's where our rights come from. Your rights come from your ideologies. You lay down the law of your nature. Law of nature.
In the context from the Declaration, remember from the Declaration forward, we hold these truths to be self-evident. Okay? A child has a mother, a child has a father. That child cannot be brought into being without a mother and a father. That's the way God intended it.
Right.
Okay.
It takes a
We
man
hold that truth to be self-evident, right? So that's, you know, when we talk about where they come, where our rights come from in law, okay, that's where we have laid down, ordained, and established that we hold these truths to be self-evident. In other words, I don't have to go to a court and ask them, hey, is this my kid? Any more than I have to ask them, hey, can I come in here and lie and present false evidence? So, you know, again, self-evident. So, again, going back to what I've done is I just laid down a right that was retained by the people. Well, that is a practice. I just called it the same thing that I called it in what I did for the corporations for years, loss prevention. Why? Because loss prevention does everything. If it has to do with maintaining consumer confidence in the company, it's come across loss prevention's desk at least once. So
here's a good question here. What's a more universal approach to rights to pertain to people who don't believe in religion? Get used to it. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You don't want to claim your rights. That's the reason why we're in the trouble that we're in now, is because people don't want to claim their rights that are creator endowed rights. Okay. Again, you have to understand, you don't have to be religious. You don't have to go to church. You don't have to practice anything to have these rights. We are one nation under God. Yes, I know that under God was added in 1956.
Right.
Okay? There was a reason behind that was added that way. It's because our nation was starting to slip. Okay.
Right.
And started recognizing what was happening.
And let me explain the difference here too, because this is a very good. This will actually help a lot of people understand the difference between theory and practice. You don't have to necessarily practice religion to understand the theory behind it. So if you, for example, just pick up the Bible and read the Bible, okay, you don't have to go out there and practice everything that it says 24/7, okay? That would be, nobody does that. Even priests don't do that. Ministers don't do that, right? So, but to understand and comprehend what's in that book, the ideology behind it, right? So it's like knowing and understanding what the law says. Well, that's our job to tell them what the law says as law sayers. That's not just our right. It's our duty to do that for our fellow man or woman, whatever. And, you know, we don't need to ask anybody's permission. We don't need to ask anybody if that is a right. It is a right. If you believe it in here, chances are it's probably yours, right? You know, like I used to tell my kids when they were real little, you know, they'd say, well, you know, Daddy, what about this? And they, you know, if it was a tough choice, we'll say, what does your head say? Well, my head says I'm mad. Well, then I'd tell him, what does, like, for example, with Stephen, but what does Stephen say about that? And he would think about it, and he would almost always give me a different answer. Almost always. So again, hold these truths to be self-evident. So when we're teaching our kids, it's like, well, we know that we're mad. We don't need anybody to tell us that we're pissed. Guess what? Again, that's self-evident. Mm-hmm. But as far as how we handle it, what do you think? Right here. What do you think? Don't ask anybody's permission. Don't have to consult anything or anybody else. What do you think? And that's what you do. That's basically where our rights come from, right? It was just 56 men and 56 men way of saying we hold these truths to be self-evident. They come from you, right? Based on this ideology. And you can practice it if you want to, but you don't have to.
But it's the law of this nation that we practice Christian forbearance, love, and charity.
In court.
That would be the morals and principles. Here's one of those principles. thou shalt not murder. I think if you're an atheist or anywhere in between, I think we can all agree that murder is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Right to be free from being murdered.
Right.
Right. Okay. That's not a bad principle, right? Okay.
Right.
Morals and principles.
Well, I would say rape too, but guess what? There's
a lot of people that disagree with that.
Rape is just fine. Guess what? I got a problem with that ideology.
What one?
Because I don't think that's fine. I think that is probably one of the most despicable things that you could do to another human being, man, especially a woman.
Murder?
Rape.
Oh.
But
because it takes life.
That's my opinion, and of course it's my right to say it, and I'm welcome to it.
One that's not created by you in our ideology. Okay.
Yeah.
This is the thing people need to understand. When you create a nation, okay, you have to lay down the law of your ideology.
Right.
Ideology comes from a religious book.
Right.
So Islam. Okay, Islam is the ideology over there. Christianity is the ideology over here in this nation.
Well, you can't generalize that because
this actually
both are practiced everywhere.
Into Canada, and this isn't just in one state. I mean, right here, my own Idaho Constitution. Let's read that right here.
Well, to generalize that and say that this is over here and not over here, that's not even true and accurate, right? Because, one of the things that these 56 men tried to do was to try to say, hey, do what pretty much ever the hell you want to. Just don't infringe on your neighbor, right?
Yeah.
As long as you're not infringing on your neighbor, then chances are you're going to be fine, right? Period. So how do we translate that to today? Well, if driving down the road, you don't run the guy next to you off the road, right? You stay in your lane and just go from point A to point B and you're golden. So, it seems pretty simplistic, but guess what? There's a certain classification of people out there that don't even comprehend that basic right. Concept.
So right here, Idaho Constitution, preamble. We, the people of the state of Idaho, grateful to Almighty God for our freedom to secure its blessings and promote our common welfare, do establish this Constitution. Now, something else to look at is most all of our documents from clear back to 1200, okay, have all been signed in the year of our Lord. Think about that.
Yeah. This is the year 2018.
Yep. Executive orders, proclamations, when they're actually signed, it says in the year of our Lord.
Yeah.
What it says.
Right. So
constitutions, they've all been signed in the year of our Lord.
Right. And that's our ideology. Again, right. You don't have to practice it. All right. You have to do is comprehend its basics. Like, for example, the basics of the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not bear false witness, etc., 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 right? Mm-hmm. So if you can basically wrap your head around those 10 things and pay them their due respect, you're probably going to be just fine. Right. So, it's not, again, we're not talking rocket science. We're just talking, live and let live kind of stuff. So,
yeah. So, I mean, I know it's a hard line for people to clearly define because it's so blurry there when it comes to religion and the law part of things. In order to have a civilized society, we have to sit down and figure out a set of ideas how we're going to live by, and that's what's called ideology.
Right.
Those set of ideas are morals and principles. We think in this civilized society that we would like to create, that
Right.
murder is bad, that you shouldn't lie about your neighbor, you shouldn't covet your neighbor's wife.
Right.
You know, these are just self-evident,
Right.
okay, to a civilized society back in the 1700s.
Correct. So, for example, Dawn brings up an interesting point. She says, my 13-year-old asked the same judge for legal representation, but it's because the GAL never spoke with either child. The judge told her that she did not need a lawyer during the court proceedings and refused to appoint her representation. Now, had there have been a fiduciary practice there, the law says you have in case precedent, the practice has said, if you have asked for counsel, you have the right to counsel, right? So because the judge denied that request, that created a trespass of the practice of law, right? The law says you have the, you do have the right to counsel, but in addition to just trespassing the law, he's usurped the law through a subversion of the process. In other words, he subverted and skirted right around what the law says about that when he denied her representation, equal representation under the law. Okay, so that in itself, when he actually took that thing from his head, went to his lips and put it into practice, that practice created the trespass. Does that make sense? Because I think a lot of people, they get kind of stuck on, well, the law says this, so where's the trespass? When did that happen? It happened the moment he denied a request for counsel. That was where the trespass
Point of clarification here. Nathan says you and I, don't overlook philosophy in your statement of ideology. No, this stuff's actually in writing in declarations. It's been declared, laid down as the law, because that's how you establish your nation. You have to lay down the law through declarations. And like I said before, the first one is July 6, 1775, Declaration for the Causes and Necessity of Taking Up Arms. That's the right to keep and bear arms. That's where that right comes from first. Okay.
Well, let me touch on that real quick.
Declaration,
the philosophy.
Declaration of Rights. Hold on. The Virginia Declaration of Rights. It is in writing. It is a declaration. June 12th. Notice the date. June 12th, 1776. June 12th. Okay. Then here's another one that a lot of people don't even know about. The Virginia Constitution. Okay. That's June 20, was it June 28th or June 23rd? Okay, of 1776. So we have, within a year span, we have 3 declarations, the Declaration of Independence, and the Constitution. And just so everybody's aware, most of the other states, at that time, states, because we were in the second or third Continental Congress by then, that they adopted the Virginia Constitution. And the Virginia Constitution actually has most of the same wording as the Declaration of Independence in it.
Right. So
those 4 documents plus the Magna Carta and then the Articles of Confederation. But in establishing or laying down the law of our ideology, not philosophy, okay, this is the law. Laying down the law. Like when you build a house,
a philosophy is something.
We don't just start throwing sticks up there and building a house. First of all, you got to prep the ground.
A philosophy is a concept, something to the effect of the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Okay, that's an example of a philosophy, right? That's Aristotle, by the way. So when we talk about we're not talking about overlooking the philosophy of it. It is, again, we're trying to explain what 56 men could have been thinking in the 1700s, right? That's not easy to do. So to study sociology, to study philosophy, and study religion, and to study the practice of law, to study the law itself, you know, you have to be a well-rounded person. You have to have an appreciation for literature, you know, for art. You have to have an understanding of psychology in particular. You know, when you talk about behaviors, Ivan Pavlov studied what was called learned behaviors. So, in other words, like repetitious motion, right? Or doing the same thing over and over and over again to develop a pattern, right? Then, of course, you talk about Sigmund Freud, and everything was based on sex. But, you know, again, you're talking about two completely different, you know, philosophies, but they were both studying psychology, right? What makes you tick? So, you know, and again, if you've studied criminology, or you've done any kind of studying of any kind of practice as it relates to this, all of that stuff is relevant, because you know, you can start getting into, like, for example, the Kansas City study. Okay, they did something called the broken windows. They developed a theory and called it the broken windows theory. They took a car, nice car, parked it in an alleyway, left it there for a week. Nothing happened to it, right? They went back, and a week later, broke the side mirror. That's all they did. Came back the next week. The only thing left there was just the shell of the car. Everything else had been stripped. So what it was is, when the car was whole and in nice shape and was perfectly fine, everybody left it alone. Like, now remember, we're talking about a completely different time frame. So now, of course, that would not hold true, because the mentality is different, right? So, but back when this study had happened, right, what they were looking for was, do we need proactive law enforcement, or do we need reactive law enforcement? Well, these two cars, what they had done is they divided the city in half. Half of it was proactive law enforcement, half of it was reactive. During the time frame of that study, do you know there was absolutely no difference in the crime rate of the time period during that study? No difference at all. So whether it was proactive patrol or reactive, go when you're called, the crime rate was exactly the same.
Right. So
again, these are theories that we have studied over the years, and I don't know if you've ever studied them or not, but you know, it's these types of things that I learned it in college, you know, how long ago? And when we talk about the dumbing down of society, we don't even talk about these studies anymore. No. Is it any wonder that we've gone backwards instead of going forwards? Mm-hmm. So, you know, but that's just my take on it. Again, what does Stephen say? Right here. What does Stephen say about that?
Yeah. So, you know, the deal here, well, what do we do about atheists not having their rights? You know what I say? Tough shit. You don't want to understand our law of this nation? Go move to a nation where it supports your ideology. But here's the problem with atheists. Just atheism is itself. It's an oxymoron, because you can't not believe in something that doesn't exist.
Right.
So either God exists and you don't believe in it, you're claiming atheism, but you can't claim atheism based on the fact that something doesn't exist.
Right.
You cannot not believe in something that doesn't exist, because if it doesn't exist, how do you not believe in it? It's like, that's another one of those brain twisters that just, you know.
Right. Chicken or the egg, right?
Right. But that's for creation of God.
Right.
It's like, yeah, which one did come first, and how do we explain that?
Right.
Scientifically. Don't human beings come from an egg as well? Don't most animals come from some sort of an egg, embryo?
You would think.
I mean, we don't all start out as an amoeba and turn into something.
I don't know. Some of the people that I've talked to on here recently, you would think so. I'm so sorry. That was so bad. Oh, God.
I seen a comment here. It was actually the wrong mouse. Dang it. Russell was asking about the seventh element of jurisdiction, wanting to talk about that guidance document from Jeff Sessions on November 16th.
Right.
We did a video on that. Breaking news. It's on Kirk's Law Corner page here. Right. Go back and watch that one. That was right there at November 20th.
November 16th or 17th when that came out, wasn't it? Because he came out. Yeah, he came out on that date and announced it.
Yeah. So, and then actually he did the kibosh on the use of guidance documents in June of 2017. Yep. That's just when he come out and was able to, he was speaking to the Lawyers Guild thing there.
Right.
So guidance documents, basically every freaking thing out there is a guidance document, if you ask me.
If they're under, remember,
rules, procedure, regulations, those are all guidance documents.
Right.
None of that is law.
What can you do? What can't you do? Right? There's a line. There's two lines. You don't go past this side and you don't go past this side. Right? What they've been doing is they've been doing this. Right? He said, nope. I'm gonna put a floor and a ceiling on that shit too. So, they're boxed in now, right? They can't go outside of that box. So that's in essence effectively what was happened. There was a guidance that I even used it myself. It was a 2-page cover letter and a 9-page letter. It was everybody called it the Dear Colleague letter. It gave 7 specific criteria of what courts and private contractors couldn't do. Here's the problem with it. It was not expansive enough because it was only based on the cases that particular department studied when they created the guidance. So because it was not expansive enough, they had to put the kibosh on that one and create the new one, which says, hey, all guidance documents are done, period. Those are not law. Those are there to tell you what you can't do.
He flat out calls policy guidance document. He's like, policy is not supposed to be applying to the people and having the force and effect of law.
Correct.
It's supposed to apply to the agents of the agencies only. And that there again, you're talking about regulations and policy, which is some of the stuff that I've been digging into. And I found out they're doing it bass backwards here in the Idaho Code. First, the legislative branch in the statute says, oh, well, it's the policy of this state under the Child Protective Act. So we've enacted these statutes here, okay, based on this policy. Well, who in the hell created the policy? You put the cart before the horse there, folks.
Exactly.
That's
the conundrum. Those are the practices that I see. That's shit that I've dealt with throughout my entire career. And every time I would see a department starting to go off the rails like that, because inevitably one of them's going to do it, got to go in there and kind of bitch slap them kind of right back into where they got to go. And I've gotten so good at doing it over 20 or almost 30 years now. I just was like, I've seen this problem. I know this shit when I see it. And that's, as it turned out, that was when I, wrote my first judicial reports for both Crystal's and my own cases. Hers actually got turned in long before mine did. But it was just strange how that all came about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting 2017 was an interesting year for me, man. Because I just was like, I studied this all through 2016. And all through 2017, I put loss prevention into practice. I just didn't tell anybody that we were doing it. 2018, we've come out, or late 2017, early 2018, we just came out with it and said, okay, here's the project. Here's when we started it. Here's what it's yielded thus far. And now we're going to keep going. And because it was, again, laid down, ordained, and established in my amicus brief that I had no confidence in the bar. And I could prove why. So, you know, whether that was right, wrong, or indifferent, the process was proper. Why? It's what American jurisprudence and the law says. So, you know, I said I can either go and start a civil war, or I can just declare no confidence. Well, no confidence was much easier on my part, even though it had the same effect. So.
Yeah. I'm going to share this link to a website here that'll just blow your mind. You want to spend some time reading. There you go. Yeah. This is kind of the stuff here. It's just, this site is loaded. You can read to your heart's content and then some, because there's a stuff out there. A shish stone of stuff.
Yep.
Jump in there, read it, understand what how we laid down the law and how we became one nation under God, and that's where our rights come from the Holy Bible. Here, let me try and just find that one particular spot real quick before we jump out of here. And I don't have my volume too, I'd show you, but
yeah. Well, we can put it in.
It's the theoretical foundation of all government. Okay.
Right.
Where is it?
Holly and Margaret just joined us. At least I just noticed them. If they've been here, sorry I missed you. Linda, hello, Linda.
What? Where is it? Yeah, a little late. Come on.
Oh, I might be getting ready to get shut down. I just got a fucking notification. Damn that.
There it is. Virginia Declaration of Rights, June 12th, 1776. Okay. I'm gonna post this direct link to this so people can go right to it. But I'm gonna also post some of the verbiage so that we understand how this nation's ideology was laid down as the law of our ideology, as it is written. Okay. That religion or the duty which we owe to our Creator. Okay, and the manner of discharging it. Discharging what? The duties that we owe to our Creator. Okay, can be directed by reason and conviction, not by force or violence. And therefore, all men are equally entitled to the free exercise of religion. Okay, free exercise of religion, not freedom from religion. Okay, according to the dictates of conscience. And that is the mutual duty, back to that duty that we owe to our Creator and the manner of discharging it. Okay, and that is the mutual duty of all to practice Christian forbearance, love, and charity towards each other. That is what it says, as it is written in the Virginia Declaration of Rights, laying down the law as our ideology, June 12th, 1776. Okay, I didn't write it. That's what it says, as it is written. That's where our rights come from, right there. That tells you what our law of nature is. And then the Declaration of Independence talks about that law of nature comes from Christianity, the Holy Bible. What comes naturally according to Christianity, Christian forbearance, love, and charity is our morals and principles from the Holy Bible. So that's what we talk about. Invasion. Our forefathers talked about invasion of our ideology. Not so much as coming in here and taking our land or, committing crimes. It's overthrowing our form of government, which is Christianity.
Well, it's replacing our ideology with domestic tranquility with this repugnant democracy called social control. No, you're not. Right? No, you're not. Don't even dream it. Quit doing it. All of the crap that you sold to everybody over the years, you've been caught, right? Quit doing it. We're going to bust you, and we're going to bust your ass hard. So we're already doing it, and they don't like it. Well, hey, too bad for them, right? Should have thought about that before they pulled that shit. So, but on that note, it's about 5 after 10, and thanks everybody for stopping by tonight. Huh?
I'm saying hi. Bob Cooper just come on, one of my local peeps, and Chad and I, we talked here the other day too.
Yep. I can't see everybody like you. Yep. And this sucker isn't responding. Shield.
Yeah, try not to think too deeply about rights coming from God. It comes from the law of nature as laid down in the Bible. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
This is honestly this is a problem with our nation. It's because we have strayed away from the morals and principles of the Bible and treating one another with Christian forbearance and love and charity. We've gone to lying about your neighbor. We've gone to stealing from your neighbor. We've gone to trespassing the law and acting arbitrarily, usurpations of power, powers that were delegated by Constitution, and those powers that are delegated cannot be usurped to expand their own powers. They don't have the power to expand their own powers. That's actually an act of treason, capital felony treason. That is a capital offense. So this is where we're at. With today's day and age of the internet, the information highway, more and more people are waking up. Now, I'll be honest, I was reading this stuff out of a book prior to even the internet being a thing. So this isn't something that I just picked up here the other day. Those that actually know me, that I can rattle this stuff off like nobody's business because I've been reading it for so long. This isn't something I just picked up yesterday. So, I've been at this for 23 years as a hobby, okay? As a hobby, random readings here and there. But I can tell you, honestly, for the last, and all you got to do is take a trip down my memory lane on my Facebook page if you're friends with me. Since, I don't know, right around 2011 there, I joined Facebook in 2009, but I started hitting stuff on Facebook really hard in 2011. Share. But, yeah. So, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, is to help educate other people out there. And I came across Chris, and I came across Ted and John Gentry, good solid people in my book. I've never been treated badly.
Love you too, brother.
Much love to my brothers and sisters out there, my followers here, our followers, because I consider ourselves here a team. Although it's Kirk's Law Corner when I started it, we've just stuck with Kirk's Law Corner because that's the name that it's been since I started it.
It works.
You know,
If it's broke, don't fix it.
Ain't nobody. I'm not going to claim that I'm better than anybody else here. So, much love to all the rest of you out there.
And check out the new Kirk's Law Corner YouTube channel. So we're live on the YouTube channel, Multimedia Broadcasting Service, that channel, as well as Kirk's Law Corner YouTube channel. So you can watch the show.
Can they hear you out there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, they can. I turned my mic up.
Okay. And then, of course, out there Tuesday nights with Jay Moss on the Far From Crazy show. I mean, normal.
Yeah.
Far From Normal.
We're all crazy. We have to be crazy to do this job.
I'll have to try and get with you there, Jay. I'm kind of available right now because I'm not able to see my son yet. Well, technically I can.
Right.
If I go pay to go have supervised visitation, which I've heard from hundreds of people out there how this process all works. Why do I want to subject myself to that process, which is I'll go in there and visit with my son, and they'll make up lies, and they'll try to use those lies against me when we're going to go down here to family court. As it is right now, I've already got them destroyed. It's not even funny.
Right.
Beat them up bad out there at the protection order hearing.
Good.
No attorney. So, anyway, much love, folks. Share, like, share this stuff. As far as I know, we're real close to 1,000 likes on Kirk's Law Corner. We have over 1,000 followers. So
we are here to stay. We ain't going anywhere. We don't care what the Whamburgers and French fries are saying. Let them keep crying. We're loving it, man. So on that note,
of course, we're going to have the haters out there. You're always going to have haters. But here's how I avoid that stuff. I stay away from negativity. I don't respond to it. Rule number 1. Unfriend, unfollow, and block. I'm done. That's the way I've been for a long time, way before I even came on Facebook. I'm the kind of guy, if you can't treat me with dignity and respect, you're out of my life. That's just the kind of guy I am. So,
and me, I'm more like Trump.
Trey Gowdy.
When I'm pissing people off, I know I'm doing it right. So, peace, guys.